lead becomes a revenue, right? No, I'm not even talking about customer. Customers translating into a let's say the first payment which they do, and they would become a recurring customer, right? So I'll talk about that entire journey. How do we optimize that whole pipeline? Yeah, learnings from doubling the entire funnel conversions, right? So all the way from again sign up to closures. I'm going to talk more from the marketing and the sales point of view. How did we work together to make that happen? And the interesting topic around how do we balance the relationship between sales and marketing. It's a love-hate relationship, so I'll talk about it. That's a very interesting topic. Finally, I'll wrap up the whole discussion with the type of the metrics we got to measure across the whole pipeline, right? So this is in a nutshell the modern SaaS funnel, right? So typically this is the funnel which every B2B marketer would possibly have seen. There is a sign up in the top or a prospect in the top, and there is a closure in the bottom, right? So the funnel is sort of, I've sort of made it horizontal to make space. But this is what the typical funnel looks like. This is, I would say, the old school funnel, right? It starts with prospect where people are really looking for, they don't even understand what problem they have. The moment they uncover, they will become a prospect, and they will be able to discover that, let's say, either through search, LinkedIn, email, or any channel. Then they would become a marketing qualified lead based on the criteria you would set. Then finally, based on other sort of parameters, it would become a sales qualified lead and become an opportunity where sales folks would pursue. Finally, it would become a closure, right? So this is the typical funnel any SaaS company or any B2B company would follow right now, correct? So what people don't track is what happens after somebody signs up as a customer, right? In a SaaS scenario, the real deal is not when the customer signs up. The real deal is what happens after the customer signs up, right? Because you spend X dollars to acquire a customer. The beauty of SaaS is if customer doesn't see a value, they'll just churn, let's say, next month, right? It doesn't happen in enterprise SaaS, but in SME SaaS, next month, if they don't see, let's say, the entire onboarding happening, they see an alternative solution, they would just switch. So the most important thing is it's not just from a prospect to closure, it's also about all the way from closure till the lifetime value, right? How do you ensure that entire journey of onboarding, creating that, first campaign, or creating the, ensuring the product goes live on time, and finally you translate this customer into a happy customer into finally an advocate, right? Somebody who is ready to give a testimonial for you, or somebody who can refer 10 more customers for you, actually. So I think in a nutshell, the overall focus for a SaaS company is not just on the left-hand side, where the marketing and the sales team would focus to close a prospect or a sign up into a customer, but it's also very, very important. It's very important that customer success, sales, marketing teams work as an A team to really ensure the customer becomes a true advocate, actually. That's the right-hand part of the funnel, right? So this is really the bow tie model. It actually looks like a bow tie, right? So I think this is very, very critical. And then this forms the foundation of our entire conversation today. So now let's discuss, right? If this is the funnel, how do you really double the conversion? I spoke about, especially from a prospect to a commit or a closure. So that is a funnel which typically sales and marketing team would own. How do you really double the entire conversion, right? Let's say there are 100 prospects or 100 signups you're getting. Let's say you're only seeing 5 customer signups. Finally, those 100 prospects would finally convert into 5 customers. Let's say, how do you double this to 10, right? So it all starts with the simple premise that if you pump in quality prospects or quality leads into the system, you would get quality output, right? So the biggest challenge is to really find the balance between the quality and the quantity, especially companies which are in initial phases where the demand generation and the growth marketing engines are being set up. People would just say, so, I generated 10 leads, I'm done with my, I'm done with my OKR or a KPI, right? It just doesn't stop there. So the idea is to ensure, you create quality leads so that they actually not just convert into a SQL not just convert into an opportunity, but truly converts into a customer, right? So how do we do that, right? So the way the way we can kind of look at this problem is to slice this funnel into smaller steps and really uncover how do you optimize every step, so that, if you have a funnel, right? Let's say there's an inverted funnel, which is prospect in the top and let's say customer in the bottom. You just have to slice this funnel into multiple slices and look at how can you optimize each step of the funnel so that the overall funnel conversions would automatically increase if you really fine tune every small step of the funnel actually. So step number one, right? So essentially people are coming to your website, people are engaging with your ads, and bunch of lot of keyword searches being happening, then that is a model where you got to really take the other way, right? The other way is really doing the push marketing. Push marketing is all about building your database. Let's say, start with top 100 accounts. Uh, you know, research a specific vertical you want to start with, and go after that specific vertical, right? So send personalized emails. Uh, you know, Upload the same list on LinkedIn. Do an outreach based on the vertical based messaging. Follow up with a call actually. So this is the second approach where you're in an industry where the need has to be created and there are no keyword searches actually. So I spoke about the two different categories of priorities we can start. So over here, what I've suggested or talking about is the case number one, where there are a lot of there are a lot of keywords actually. So typically in the first phase, it's all about going after and optimizing your website for SEO. Start running SEM campaigns. Do a bunch of other things like customer stories. Start with smaller things like start being delegates in an event, right? Rather than jumping into sponsoring a, let's say, $15,000 or $20,000 worth of event participation. Before that, maybe you can just be a participant and understand. Maybe in the second phase is where, let's say after a quarter or two, we can start really scaling up some of the channels which are working in the initial phase and then do more of that actually, right? So overall, to sum up this slide, the idea is to really start with channels which is relevant for your industry, relevant for relevant for the stage at which you are in, and then focus on converting this micrometrics into signups. Let's say imagine you're working on LinkedIn, email, and let's say SEO. Then your metrics would be largely from the SEO point of view. It would be largely what are the type of the keywords where you're getting searches in the top, search impressions you're getting, number of clicks, like visitors, signups, right? Signups is where you're going to end in this micro funnel. And let's say you're running LinkedIn campaigns. It's all about impressions, how many clicks you're getting, how many lead generation forms you're getting opened, and how many people are finally signing up. So the key takeaway from this slide is really about start with the channels which would give you high quality leads based on the stage and the type of the category, and ensure you optimize your channels. Each channel, you have micrometrics for each channel. Optimize them with a focus on getting quality signups actually, right? And the other thing is, let's say if somebody coming to your website, you got to really focus on converting them to signups actually, converting into somebody who's interested for a demo, right? And that's a big topic in itself, but the idea is, use the CRO or a conversion rate optimization techniques to essentially take them through the entire journey on the website and finally convert them to a sign up actually. So quality, I think the final takeaway from this slide is quality channels, optimize your micrometrics, optimize your website, and you'll be able to truly optimize your spend on all the channels so that you'll get quality signups actually. And the sign up would essentially move into the next step, right? Sign up will become an MQL and it would essentially move into the next stage. Let's say somebody signs up, right? And then what does the marketing team does is they qualify the lead, qualify, let's say somebody signed up, they qualify that, okay, this person is good. I will tag it as a marketing qualified lead or an MQL actually. Typically what happens after the tagging is somebody would do a call. Somebody, let's say a BDR or a SDR rep would possibly call them and ask them, okay, what is your requirement? What are the pain points you're truly facing actually? And this is probably one of the most important stages in the funnel where a lot of the MQLs would drop out unless you have a very tight workflow setup. So what I mean is let's say somebody just sign up on a Saturday morning. If you don't have a BDR team working on a weekend, the person might have to wait for 2 days or maybe 2.5 days to get a call back. So the solution is, it's about automating it, right? I've written a simple workflow here where the moment somebody signs up, they get a thank you mail saying, hey, thanks for signing up. Can you explore, these are the products, we work for, these are the customers we work with. Why don't you explore our products before we do a callback largely, right? And then the moment a sales rep is tagged, then we can start sending the automated emails asking for a meeting, right? Because they signed up and hence they're possibly looking for a demo actually. And you can also, either you can do an outbound, you can essentially do an outbound call, you can do a LinkedIn request so that there are different touch points. So even people who are not very, very actively looking for something and they just signed up to explore, they would be reminded of the fact that they have to give a time for a demo actually, right? And the overall idea is to ensure all the MQLs, all the qualified MQLs coming to your funnel moves down into the funnel by systematically putting a workflow together on and really asking them for a demo or really sending them a thank you mail, or even in this meeting request emails where it's not just about asking for a meeting time, but it's also about sending them a content piece which is going to be helpful for them, right? And then that's what would build the trust actually. And the left hand side, I have this T+1, T+3, T+7. So these are the dates, right? Let's say somebody comes and signs up on a Monday, which is T, that's the day T, and then the next day, which is Tuesday, if they haven't given a time, then you'll be sending the second meeting request email, and then T+3, which is on a, let's say, Thursday, you would be sending another follow-up mail saying, hey, I'm trying to follow up with you. I know you're busy, but can you just tell me what time and what day you're available by clicking on the calendar link or by just replying to this actually. So we did a bunch of this automation workflow stuff, and we were able to increase the MQL conversions to SRL or SQL from, it used to be 30% before the workflow was being implemented, and it essentially jumped almost 50% to 45, 46% actually. Right, so the next is about, you have a bunch of people who sales folks have mentioned, all right, so this seems to be a sales qualified lead, and how do you really ensure the conversions happen, right? How do you really ensure the sales qualified leads becomes an opportunity and finally it becomes a closure? So one of the most important things is ensuring the handoff happens between the marketing and the sales folks, with the right framework actually. The simplest framework is the band framework. So what it means is, so let's say somebody has come to your website and signed up. You figure out, okay, he or she is a CIO or a CTO, looking for a demo. Then you have to figure out, let's say when the BDR actually calls them, they will try and find out whether they're the right person, which is the authority. They should check what is the depth of the need, right? Somebody would just say, hey, I'm just exploring, but you got to uncover the need actually. You got to uncover asking them, hey, what are the specific problems you're currently facing? What are the specific areas where you are currently having white space, right? Or let's say, what are the plans you have for the next 3 quarters or next 3 months? So that would help you articulate the need, which is the N. So next is the timeline. That's the T part of it. The BDR has to truly ask them, if somebody is looking for a product, they should ask them, so what's the timeline in which they're trying to buy the product, right? And finally, the budget. Budget is a very, I would say touchy topic. A lot of them would not be able to tell you the budget, but typically finding the authority, need, and timeline is a great way to qualify. It's a great qualified framework when a lead is being handled between a marketing to a sales function actually, and we call this BANT, and then it's quite a simple and a common framework. We can possibly read more about that. So it all starts with when you transfer the lead from a marketing to sales, ensuring this score is really set, right? So what we used to do is we used to put down a set of dimensions and say, if you add all the scores, then the lead score or a SQL score would come in, right? If the SQL score is, let's say, more than 60 or 70, it is a hot lead. If it is between 40 to, let's say, 60, it's a warm lead, and less than 40, you just have to drop it, right? You possibly have to constantly nurture them over email and through calls, and possibly make it either a warm or a hot lead actually. So this essentially ensures the debate between the sales and the marketing would come down, right? The sales team would say, this is not warm or not hot, but the marketing team would say, this seems to be a hot lead. So if you have this framework using BANT, if you have the SQL scoring done, then the amount of the debate would possibly come down, and there is a method to the madness. The second, the most important thing is implement this framework. Also set up a bunch of SLAs with your sales team, right? So what happens is, you generate a ton of leads. Sales folks would be busy closing a few deals. They might not be able to cater to leads, or they might be having some other priority, right? They might be hustling and they're working on one customer, but they might not be able to take some of the meetings. So it's very, very important to come up with metrics which will also guide the entire moment, right? Because you can't have a SQL sitting around in your system for very long, let's say 3 weeks, not more than. An SQL can be within the system possibly for 2 to 3 weeks. So what it means is, unless there is a clear reason given by sales team, we want to start calling out the leads and ask them, okay, what is happening with the lead? Is it qualified? Are you able to make 1, 2, 3 rounds of meeting? Some of that stuff, right? So the idea is to have and set these SLAs with the sales team and ensure both of you agree, and so that your movement between one step to another step is truly managed well. And the most important thing is you can take actions. Let's say there are a bunch of leads who are not even responding, and it's just lying as a SQL. Your BDR should pick up that lead again, do the call, do a bunch of follow-ups, reignite the conversation, pass it back to the salesperson, right? Every lead is important. You don't have any opportunity to kind of drop the ball in between. So that's one, right? So the next is, if you segment this set of the set of opportunities, let's say sales folks would have created in a period of time. So there will be a set of opportunities which are hot. There will be a set of opportunities which might be in the warm stage, and some of them would be in the dormant stage, right? So what it means is, dormant stage opportunities are the one where people are just saying, I definitely have a requirement, but I am busy for the next 2 months, right? So can you please come back after 2 months? We'll restart the conversation. So it's very, very important to engage with these dormant opportunities and also the potential leads, right? Who might not have a requirement now, but in the near future, truly add them back into automation. And based on the stage they are in, based on the product they're looking for, based on the need they're looking for, you got to marketing team has to truly run nurture campaigns for them, so that you are on top of the mind, right? You are on top of their mind. Otherwise, what happens is, a lot of these folks will be evaluating multiple products, and they might just end up buying out your competitor product, right? Because competitor product might be on top of their mind. They're possibly calling them, they're inviting them from webinars, asking them to download something, blah blah blah. So it's very important to take a slice of the opportunities which are either dormant, or opportunities who are people who are possibly not looking for something right now, but they would say, okay, connect back to me after 2 quarters. Really put them on a nurture funnel, separate nurture funnel. Maybe go to the extent where it can be truly 1:1, especially in an enterprise segment actually. Right, and the other thing what we also have done is, especially for the opportunities who are being dormant for a while and who are still not very clear about buying the product and possibly have a lot of questions. So what we also have done is we have done a bunch of small format events. Small format events are a event where you would call about 8 to 10 people, truly have a round table where you call a customer, you have your leadership team there, and essentially you have a 1 hour session, typically 1 hour session with your customer. Customer can truly talk about, let's say, if you're in CRM space, the customer can talk about how did they really envision their CRM strategies, what is the point of view, and if possible, if they can talk about how you guys have helped them, that can be truly icing on the cake, actually, right? So the key here is to not only just reiterate the trust you guys have built in the from the word of mouth of your customer, or the second thing is it's also important that all the leadership team engaging with the opportunities and understand what are the concerns are, why are they not really signing up, etc., right? A lot of the times the meetings might not have a chief product officer, meetings might not have a customer success person, and hence your opportunities, the folks who are in the opportunities might have a lot of questions around how is the delivery model, how is your product scalability, and some of that. Because a salesperson or a pre-sales person will not be able to articulate everything, right? So it's very important to have this small forum where you call your high priority prospects or opportunities, have your customer to do a talk and do a networking session where people would just network and do one and dine, right? Right now it's not possible. What you can possibly do is again do a virtual event where you can truly call the top opportunities and replicate the same thing in the virtual world. So we did a bunch of these things which I mentioned, and previously, before all the activities were executed, the SQL to opportunity conversion rate used to be 30%. Now, after we implemented a bunch of this, we were able to push that number more than 40% actually. And it's truly an incremental 15% is very, very important at this stage where something is already in SQL, and something is already in SQL, and converting that into opportunity is truly important actually. Right, so we sort of covered the entire funnel, right, all the way from a prospect to a customer actually. So the most important thing to really talk about is the relationship between the sales and marketing. So I would call this as a relay race actually. In a relay, you got to be, both of them have to run fast, and you got to move the baton, or give away the baton to somebody else in the quickest possible time with a collaborative way. Otherwise you're going to get screwed up actually. And it's a love and hate relationship, right? And it's good that it's good to have that as a love and hate relationship. So why is it important? You've got to debate, you've got to understand, you really have to debate sometimes, because that's healthy, right? A healthy debate will always help, because that's when you understand the point of view of different points of view. But however, I'm not saying an eternal debate is required, but it's important to have critical conversations so that sales and marketing can truly align themselves with a common goal actually. And it all starts with a common goal, right? The way you can smoothen the relationship is really start with setting a common purpose. Common purpose is typically generating quality pipeline which can convert. And if all the conversation would revolve around this common purpose, it's going to be useful actually. So when you are in a critical situation, you have a question about whether you should do A or we should do B. You just have to ask yourself, okay, which of these cases will help you in generating the pipeline better? Or even before that, you should figure out, okay, whether this is something which is going to solve the pain point of the customer. And finally, it would, any which ways, in turn will help you increase the pipeline. So it all starts with having a common purpose, and second is translating this purpose into frameworks, right? So I spoke about the lead handoff framework, and I also spoke about some of the metrics we should track, between a SQL and a closure, right? So having these frameworks truly help you smoothen the conversation, help you give a direction to the relationship between the sales and marketing. Most importantly, I think it's very important to go to the extra mile. A marketing team truly asking what help do they need for a specific lead which is not converting, or a salesperson pulling in the marketing person for a meeting and making him or her to actually understand what's the point of view of a prospect. So both the parties has to go to the extra mile, right? And that's when it can truly work as a world class relay team actually. And most importantly, it's a game which has to be won together. It's a relay race, and people have to act as a mature individual, and that's the only one. That's the only case. That's the only way we can truly work as a team. Right. So just a minute. Let me just quickly check the time. So all right. So we are down by 35 minutes. So I'll spend another 5 to 10 more minutes, and we'll spend the last 15 minutes for Q&A. Right. So right now, we are at a stage where we have got a lot of prospects. Prospects became an MQL to SRL, and a bunch of them got closed actually. So that's where we have covered right now. And then from here, it's all about one, creating value for somebody who has signed up, and second, helping them win. Third, making them an advocate, right? And this is a huge topic in itself. This is a huge topic in itself. And while I'm not an expert in this specific topic, but I've tried to sort of put together a bunch of things on how sales and marketing can, essentially help this entire motion to become successful. Interestingly, everyone would talk about the first point, upsell and cross sell, right? Ideally, that has to come in the last. Ideally, that is a point which is an outcome which truly happens when a bunch of things which I have written would be made possible. Ideally, this upsell cross sell should be in the bottom of the slide, but I've just added this to tell you guys that this is typically how people think. But in a real sense, upsell cross sell is an outcome of different activities which the sales, marketing, and customer success truly help truly execute to make the customer successful. So it all starts with product adoption, right? Especially in a SaaS world, it's important. You do a great onboarding. You celebrate different milestones. Let's say you go live with a customer who with whom you're struggling to go live, or any other case, right? Celebrate that actually. Celebrate that milestone. Truly go and let's say post COVID, you have a situation where you can go and do it in person. Please do that. Even otherwise, celebrate the different milestones you essentially have. Distribute swag, right? Distribute cool swag so that people would start wearing that, or people would start associating with the brand. The overall idea is to build product champions. It's not just about celebrating, but it's also about constantly running campaigns and interactions with the different folks in the company, all the way from the product buyer who is a product sponsor or a project sponsor till the product user, right? You got to really segment them and then truly run targeted motions for all of them. So the idea is to start building product advocates within the company, wherein which people within the company would start talking about it. So imagine you are in an enterprise SaaS space where you are, let's say you onboard for example, Future Group, right, which is a large retail company, and you'd possibly, you get Big Bazaar as one of the first customers actually. So your opportunity is limitless because Future Group is a large conglomerate, any other conglomerate, right? So the idea is to ensure, make sure the Big Bazaar as the first customer becomes successful and start moving horizontal, right? From Big Bazaar to let's say Hometown, there are a bunch of other business units. So that's one way you can start doing cross sell from the BU point of view, and we can start doing upsell from the product point of view, right? Where you can truly make them successful. Essentially, tell them, empower them to take a better version of your product, or let's say the next version of the license, right? And the way you can do that is ensure you work with the customer success team, ensure the product adoption happens, and really segment the customers based on the product adoption, right? Let's say a bunch of people would have using the module 1, but not module 2, put them in a cohort and truly run targeted motion which is single-minded with a single-minded focus of increasing the adoption for module 2, right? It can be a bunch of emails, a bunch of videos. You can also do a, let's say, virtual event where you can talk about how the value can be unlocked using the module 2. A lot of the front ending will be done by customer success, but the key is the marketing team and sometimes even the sales team to jump in and then own some of this business, right? Especially things like the campaigns and events, that's typically owned by the marketing team. And the third and the most important thing is about, once you start delivering value to your customers, the idea is to start celebrating them, celebrating them in a true sense. A lot of the brands just go and put a gun in the head of customer, and they ask them to give a customer testimonial, right? And that is a case when you would possibly get the most boring story out of your customer's mouth, right? So let's flip this story, right? Let's flip the story and possibly keep the brand in the center and ask questions to them. It's all about their brand. It's all about what is the vision they have, what are the challenges they face, how did they become a hero, what are the outcomes they got, and finally your product would anyway come in, right? The final leg of the whole story is about your product. uh, the story will not start with your product, the story would end with your product. um, Everyone likes to become a hero, right? Imagine you have a CTO who is buying product from you. Call them for a virtual event, make them a speaker. If you sponsor an event, again, call them as a speaker actually. Rather than you speaking, make them the speaker, let them speak. How did they really solve the challenges? And of course, they would potentially talk about you actually. And endorsement by customer is possibly the biggest impact that you can create on a stage. Rather than you going and talking about your product, customer going and talking about you would possibly have the largest impact, right? Because that's possibly, people possibly relate to the speaker who is a customer or who is a brand rather than you actually. So there are a bunch of other things actually. Let's say you're working with a large conglomerate and you have landed in one of the small business units and you have made them successful. Have this business unit head or the brand head to do an internal presentation with other BU heads to talk about, how did they become successful as a business unit by using your product. This is a great way to build internal advocates, right? This is a great way to build the motion for, or a foundation for setting the whole cross-sell motion, cross-sell motion across business units. Or it can be even between geographies, right? Let's say a large brand would come, from, let's say, Southeast Asia, let's say from Singapore. They sign up with you, they become a customer, they truly, love your product, right? So a lot of these large brands typically have an annual or a quarterly meeting. So find an opportunity where you can motivate them to talk about how did they become a hero by using your product. And that would become the most effective way to get you introductions with other business units or to other geographies actually. So that's something which has truly worked for us. And if you make this a repeatable model, right? If you make this some of these things in a repeatable flow, you'll be just able to execute that for every possible customer, right? Based on the product adoption and the customer health index. And the final thing which I want to talk about is the customer advocacy board. So again, this is essentially a buzzword, but the idea is to have a set of top customers as a advocacy board. So what an advocacy board looks like is a bunch of 7, 8, 10 people uh, across the board, across geographies and across different categories. So these are the folks who will get access to the beta of your product. These are the folks who will meet with you, let's say every quarter. They will give you feedback about your product. They will talk about their roadmap. They will exchange thoughts, which can be used by product managers to truly build your product roadmap. Or some of them would also become your customer references for testimonials and stories. So it's a great opportunity to build a small little community who can be your spokesperson, who can give inputs for your feedback, who can be your beta user, everything, right? And this customer advocacy board is it's a really interesting way to get this whole customer marketing thing grow to the next level, right? So yeah, so finally, metrics matter, right? Because if you're talking about pipeline management, what truly matters is truly the metrics, right? Again, if you look at the entire funnel, right now I'm only talking about signups are a prospect to closure because this is the topic which I have spent the maximum amount of time. So this is a type of metrics which I am suggesting. So one is the overall funnel metrics, right? So you have a overall, let's say 100 signups which are coming to your system. You got to figure out how many of them do they convert into MQL, and how many of the MQLs will become SQL, so on and so forth. That's the funnel metrics. This is within each part of the funnel, right? Let's say between impressions or between the type of ads you're running to signups, there is a set of metrics which you have to track. I'm giving an example of search engine marketing where there are metrics such as impressions, clicks, visitors, sign up. If you optimize this micro funnel, ensure you have the right ads, ensure you optimize your landing page, automatically your impressions to sign up funnel would get optimized, correct? So in the same lines, the whole idea is to slice this entire funnel into smaller funnels and truly optimize this micrometrics so that your overall metric of a specific stage would essentially improve actually. So that's the second segment of metrics. So the third segment of metrics is largely from the again conversion point of view, right? So the idea is to do a matrix where you understand what channels are working great in terms of generating signups. For example, a lot of the folks say LinkedIn is a great channel for conversions. But some of the folks, what I've heard is LinkedIn, what they say is LinkedIn is a great channel for generating top of the funnel. But generating top of the funnel, which might not convert immediately. But the idea is to figure out for your business, what are the channels which works the best across different stages, right? For example, for us, when we started, we spent a lot of time, money in LinkedIn. It generated a lot of leads, but LinkedIn, the whole lead to conversion ratio was an abysmal, I would say 2 to 3%. So what it means is if 100 MQLs we got, then hardly one or two became customer because the intent on a LinkedIn is very low. Then what we did is we recalibrated the entire channel mix, where we channelized all the LinkedIn leads back into our automation funnel, and that entire funnel again started working really well. So the key is to have this entire funnel metrics with a cut based on the channel, so that you'll be able to figure out, let's say SEO point of view, you get great quality leads, which would convert into opportunities, which would convert into, let's say, closures. So what it means is if you're able to find those channels which are very high quality in nature, then you're going to turn that on, right? You have to figure out, you have to invest more money, invest more time, and invest more resources for that. This is very important because, if you live in a world where you keep saying LinkedIn is working because you're generating a lot of leads, but if they're not converting into a pipeline or into a closure, there is no point of generating those leads, right? So it's extremely important to go down the funnel all the way from MQL to SRL to opportunity closure, and really look at what channels are helping you with leads which are actually converting into customer. Finally, it's about the cost, right? A lot of people say, if I ask them, okay, what is the cost metric which they measure? They say typically cost per MQL or a cost per SRL, and the life ends there. But the true important metrics we got to measure is what is the cost of, let's say, a pipeline which is going to generate, let's say, from SEM, and what's the amount of the investment you got to do, right? Let's say you generate $100,000 worth of pipeline using search engine marketing, but you got to figure out how much are you spending to create this $100,000 worth of pipeline, and that will be a great measure of the quality of the channel, right? You can also go to an extent where you'll say, okay, if I want to close $100,000 worth of order book, let's say from LinkedIn, or let's say from organic, what is the cost of that, right? If you truly demarcate the cost, you'll be able to truly figure out, not just from a lead point of view, but also from an opportunity and from a closure point of view, I think. So I will stop here. So we'll have about 10 minutes. So to wrap it up, just going back. So this is how a typical modern funnel looks like. Uh, it's very, very important to optimize the entire funnel all the way from prospect to LTV. And the key is to optimize micrometrics within each segment or a stage of the funnel. Let's say from prospect to MQL, it's all about qualification butter, ensuring you turn on the right channels, and make attempts to launch a CRO project where you optimize your landing pages. So that's when you get quality prospects actually. So I will stop here. I would be happy to take any questions actually. So Murali has asked, so what are the framework we can suggest for a bootstrap startup with limited resource actually? Sorry, just give me a sec. I'll in fact quickly go back to one of my slides. Yeah, so Murali, I think the crawl phase, right? The crawl phase is a phase where if you are, let's say a small startup, right? Small startup with either have no resources or limited resources. So these are the 4-5 things you got to really work on. So number one is website. Ensure even if you don't have 10 paying customers, ensure you have a world-class website. Second, start building great content. You either your teammates can really work on ideas, you build a storyline, and there are a bunch of freelancers who can essentially help you build this content at a very low cost actually, but ensuring the quality is great. So the point is, in the second point is all about building great content that would help you build a foundation for building a great inbound engine. Number three is, if you start having some paying customers, start getting their references and really either shoot videos or really get text testimonials which we can talk about on the website. Number four is possibly the most underrated and important thing is using your BDR motion and what I call as a BDR 2.0, right? Where you personalize every type of email you send, and we are very, very specific about, let's say you are targeting 100 accounts, go after them across all the channels, do a follow-up call, and you can truly start seeing great results if you focus your energies for a small set of people and do a bunch of experiments actually. uh, right, so again, there are a whole bunch of growth hacks we can talk about, but again, with the interest of time, we can take that offline. But in a nutshell, for a company who is just getting started, so website, cold call and cold email with a bunch of personalization tactics. So number three would be customer stories. So number four would be laying a great foundation for your inbound engine through in the form of SEO. And you have some money, and if you are in an industry which has a lot of keywords, please spend that for launching your paid ads, because that's where you can get high quality leads. Provided your messaging, your targeting is great, you'll be able to get good quality leads. So the next question is around how to define the lead scoring system. That's by Kristen actually. Sure. So Kristen, I think so lead scoring, again, just moving a little bit forward. Yeah. So one of the ways you can do lead scoring is allocate values for different dimensions, right? So let's say you can segment 5-6 questions. Let's say what is the size of the industry, what is the size of the company. Let's say it's an enterprise company, maybe you can tag the score for that dimension a little higher, compared to, let's say, mid-market. Most important thing is the band, right? Which is the budget, authority, need, and the timeline. If somebody has a need, which they're looking for something in the next 2 weeks, then the score for the need would be very, very high. Let's say if somebody is looking for a product and they have a project, let's say after 3 months, possibly the dimension for that score for the timeline would be fairly lesser, compared to someone who's looking for a solution for in the next two weeks actually. So we can segment it based on the band. We can also add things like what's the size of the company, then whether you're able to cater to that segment, right? Especially when you're a small company, you possibly are catering to 2 categories. So leads coming in that specific 3 categories, you can give better score for that, right? From the product market fit point of view. If there is a bunch of leads which come out of the category, maybe the product market fit criteria score, sub score would be fairly lesser, because even if you go and talk to them, the possibility of you would be serving them would be slightly lesser, because they might need more integrations and more customization. I can go on and on, but typically it starts with band. Then you can talk about target market fit. Then you can also talk about the geography fit, and some of those other dimensions can be made part of the lead scoring framework. So if you guys have any question, please type it in the Q&A tab, so that I'll try and answer that. I think we have another 5 more minutes. Yeah, another 3 more minutes. But again, happy to answer if you guys have any questions actually.
Ashwin, there is one question in the chat, if you can look at it.
Okay. Yeah, I have looked at it actually. There were a couple of them. I tried to answer. Just give me a minute. Sure, can you help me with the question? Sorry, I'm not able to access it. Somehow my my system is kind of
Sure. So there is one question: how do you build email databases?
Okay.
And second one is, what tools do you use to capture leads, to nurture them, for the customer success?
Okay, understood. Sure. Sure, I'll possibly cover spend a couple of minutes on the first question on building database. See, the easiest bet to go is where to get databases. Let's say subscribe to someone like a Zoom Info or discover.org, where you got to spend a lot of money, right? Typically it would cost you anywhere between 10 cents to even $1 to acquire one contact from Zoom Info actually. I think the most important part is, especially when in a startup mode and we have least or no resources, there are different other ways we can really figure things out, right? So one of the ways is, for example, let's say you are a software, you're catering to, let's say, hotel industry. So number one step is to really find out the list of accounts, right? Again, going back to this hotel example, so what you can potentially do is go back to booking.com, go back to the go and add a bunch of filters saying geography, star rating, etc. Let's say you want to target only 5-star hotels, luxury hotels. So get that list, right? So have a data analyst who does this. Let's say go to booking.com, scrape all the list of hotels actually. So that is nothing but your account list for, let's say, you're targeting, let's say, Thailand as a region, where you believe holiday is a huge category and you have a software for them. So start with that, right? So go to a place where you can find your target accounts. So the second step is all about finding the prospects in each account, right? Let's say you have scraped 100 hotels, and in this 100 hotels, you got to figure out, okay, who is the buyer? Let's say CTO is the buyer, or CI was the buyer. then you have a CMO who would potentially influence the decision, so on and so forth. So again, you got to like really do this manual work where go to LinkedIn and then potentially we can subscribe to a sales navigator or a premium account. And we can, for each account, you can find out people, and you can go to the second step where you have the accounts. Then the second step is all about populating all the different people who are going to be in the buying community. And typically there are tools like Lucia, or even there are apps like Scrap, SKRAPP, Scrap, where you just give a LinkedIn profile a link. It will give you their the tool would give you their email ID actually. Or there are cost-effective tools like Apollo.io, where you can spend like, they used to run a campaign where for all the startups, for a $50 investment per month, you can download unlimited database. I don't know whether they're still running the offer, but there are tools like Apollo.io and a whole bunch of other tools which give you, help you do some of this heavy lifting by giving all the filters in one place where you can download the database directly actually. So these are the different ways we can do. Sorry, Shub, what is the other question?
What tool do you use to capture the leads and to nurture them and for the customer success?
Sure. So largely, you can essentially subscribe for any of these marketing automation tools. Right now, we are using HubSpot. Again, there are tools like Marketo or the other tools, right? And there are tools with which are possibly a lot more affordable in nature. Something like a Lead Squad. Again, Lead Squad is typically it's a tool used by high velocity sales team. On the same lines, there are different tools. Actually, you can also use Fresh Marketeer as well. Fresh Marketeer also is quite affordable and also has a very rich set of features. So that's a system which will essentially have all this functionality, right? Where you can define a segment and say, okay, send them the first mail. If they don't open the first mail, send them another version of it. Or if they open the first mail, send them the second mail, so on and so forth. The beauty of this is it doesn't just track your emails, it will also track all your website activities, right? Somebody coming back to your website, somebody, signing up something on a LinkedIn, some of these great tools, some of the tools which has a true omni-channel functionality, they can aggregate all the information in one place so that even when a BDR calls them, they can truly go and check the record and figure out, okay, what are the type of ads they clicked on, what are the pages they actually browsed on the website, what are the emails they clicked on. They'll be able to derive some pattern, right? Some pattern saying what is the product they're potentially be interested in. And the beauty of this, nurture or an automation tool is even for the existing customers, you can create another segment, and based on the product adoption metrics, you can create a series of emails, right? You can create a series of emails. You can also have this as a single source of truth where even your customer success can refer this automation metrics, and they can possibly engage with people who are not, let's say, opening the mail. They can possibly call them and check, if they're getting the mail, why are they opening, and some of that actually. So in a nutshell, a marketing automation engine such as HubSpot or a Marketo or a Fresh Marketeer or some of these tools can be truly used. Shoaib, are there any other questions?
I don't think so. There is one question: what is the best way to sell high-value SaaS services to US-based clients?
Sure. Got it. Sure, and I think it's a good question.
Yeah, this is the last question. We are taking it, and
okay.
Then we'll wind it up.
Sure. Yeah, I think so. I think the key is, as I said, in the enterprise space, it's the one single takeaway: small is beautiful, right? So small is beautiful. What I mean is, go as customized as you can or as personalized as you can. For example, we are running a campaign for a set of specific category. We are just starting with 50 accounts, right? We're just starting with 50 accounts. It's a cold database. We have built this database for 50 accounts. We have uploaded the same set of accounts on LinkedIn. We are running campaigns for them in terms of branding. We are running emails for them based on the engagement metrics. We are calling them. We're just not calling them everyone. We're calling whoever is replying, which is number one priority. Number two is people who are engaging with us, coming to our website, etc. So on and so forth, actually, right? So this is one small part of the conversation, right? It all starts with the right targeting and really ring fencing them, going after them across channels so that you create 5 or 6 touch points. Some of them, after 5, 6 touch points, they convert actually. And the beauty of a BDR and SDR function, you can set that up in India, and then now that we have seen a lot of enterprise SaaS success story out of India, so you get good talent pool. You can essentially use them to call them, nurture them, hand it over to the sales team only when they are truly looking for a demo, right? So I think these are some of the ideas which I can think of. Yeah, but enterprise SaaS for the US is a big topic in itself.
So I think, Ashwin, we are done for the day.
Sure.
And it is a really great session today. Alongside with you, it is a really knowledgeable session. Some things I need to apply for on my pipelines also
Sure.
for that. And definitely, it is a big thank you for you as well as our attendees also who attend the session for this webinar. And definitely in future also we'll come with some same type of and the same line webinars in the future also.
Sure. Thanks so much for the opportunity. I hope, folks, this was valuable to you. And yeah, all the very best. These are uncertain times, but companies who truly emerge out of this uncertain times are the strongest one. So wishing each one of you the best. Thank you.
Thanks, Ashwin. Thanks
you.
everyone. Have a nice day. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.